I had to educate myself to meet the demand of Singaporeans, Indians, Chinese investors, Japanese investors that wanted to be in the US market. And so that's another thing that I find is education and personal development is a constant, it's a daily thing that you need to be plugging in.
Are you ready to transform your life? This is a no-nonsense show helping immigrants like you create generational wealth, even while working full-time. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Saket Jain.
Welcome, everyone. Today I have on the show the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Aaron Adams. Aaron, welcome to the show, and thank you for making the time. I appreciate it.
Good to be here, man. I'm excited. As you know, I've been coaching volleyball again, like I did 22 years ago when I taught high school. So coaching gear on because, we have a match today. So that's the orange explanation.
Well, that's the teacher in you. So this is the man that I met him several years ago now. I learned the term K through 12 from Mr. Aaron Adams. If you have any complicated topic, this is the man who can simplify it and explain to you in layman terms. So Aaron, why don't you introduce yourself? You don't need introduction in most circles, but our circle may be needed for you. Can you help folks understand what you do? Kind of give them a little bit of your background?
Yeah, no, I'm excited that you're doing this platform because you've always been somebody, we've known each other a while, and you've always been someone that is excellent at articulating and communicating. And so to see this format, it just really makes a lot of sense. And, it's interesting. I've been on this 22-year journey of personal development and self-improvement. And it really started when I was teaching high school in Southern California back in 1999. I stumbled across a copy of the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm sure a lot of the people, and that was a new book back then. There was no seminar company. There was no, Robert Kiyosaki was unknown. I heard he had self-published a book a few times in the 90s before it really got picked up and commercially published. He just kept hammering away on it because it was a compelling story. But, for me in Southern California teaching high school, that book really blew my mind. I had never thought about passive wealth accumulation, which was ironic because I had a father who was he was a rich dad, but he was a W-2. And so he had been a casino executive. I grew up in Las Vegas. I grew up in New Jersey while he made a really nice mid six-figure income, but his mindset was one of W-2 because he came from Indiana. His parents were not college educated. My grandfather came home from World War II and, basically went to work at a factory job for his whole career. And so my dad felt like getting a college degree and then stepping into that W-2 high net worth position was, just the pinnacle. And what's so interesting, I'm the oldest of seven. I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters.
I didn't realize that, Aaron. You're 7.
Yeah.
I know about your brother and you. I didn't know they're 7. Wow.
Yeah, I'm the oldest. And what's funny is, I have a brother who's my Irish twin. He's 54 weeks younger than me. He just sold his business for $600 million.
Oh, and that's a sweet exit.
Yeah, I'm not even the rich one in my family, my 75 million.
Maybe a good looking one, Aaron.
But it's just funny how now this next generation of kids are entrepreneurial. We're less risk adverse than my dad was. And I heard a quote by John Adams once where he said that, we carry the sword so that our children can carry the plow and our grandchildren can carry the pen.
Love that.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated because I've seen the manifestation of that in this third generation of siblings. It scares me to death for my kids, right? Because they've never wanted, right? And they've never known kind of that hardship. So it's how do you put them in a situation where they have to scrimp and scrape? Because I literally started this journey. I'm teaching high school from 7 to 3, and then I'm coaching from 3 to 5. And then I'm taking my MBA classes at Cal Poly from 5 to 7, 3 days a week. And so then Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I'm trying to do real estate deals, right? No one just has the luxury of investing, whether you're trading, whether you're building a business, whether you're, trying to get ahead. It has to fit in the seams of your life.
Right.
And so that's the challenge, because then when you own a business, you're always behind. I never get caught up on my emails. I never return every phone call that I'd like to each day. So you have to learn to really focus on things that are the most important in your business. But when you can do that successfully, it just 10Xs everything that you do.
And how are you doing that, Aaron? Have you cracked the code on that?
I read a book where it was talking about, working in your business versus working on your business.
On your business, right.
The insidious thought that people succumb to is this idea that because you can do it better yourself, you should. And so I see people wasting a lot of time on tasks that, you do it better, but it's not worth your time. And so in my head, I'm always thinking, I need to be spending my time on things that make me $2,000 an hour. That's like my number in my head. And so whenever something is wasting my time, obviously I don't count coaching as that, right? I don't count family time as that. Those are completely different like buckets. But when it comes to earning money, for example, I had to stop flying to Indianapolis to buy foreclosure properties every month because it wasn't worth that time, right? And so when you start becoming selfish with your active income time each day, and you start delegating tasks, knowing that they'll be done worse. That's the problem that high functioning, maybe you've become really good at making 3, 4, 5, 6, 700,000 bucks, right? But you'll never make $1 million until you learn to let others do inferior work on some of your work. That's the hard thing. That's a learned ability.
It actually reminds me of a conversation, Aaron, that you and I had over the piano bar they usually play during your classes. So one of the conversations you had was I asked him, like, so how do you make money? He's like, so do you really want to make money? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're not after money, Saket. You're after glamour. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you want to stay with all your high-tech stuff. You're never going to, making money is not that hard. I'll get you a mobile transportation truck and you're going to make $100,000 a month, a week. But you're not going to do it because you think you're too good for it, right? Which is the most important part. I think it's a shift in perspective of our priorities, our time, doing things good by ourselves may be great because that's what's rewarded at work. They may not get you what you want to do in life.
Yeah, there's like this hierarchy of sexy ways to make money that's ridiculous because I'm completely dialed into the fact that if I can make $2,000 an hour emptying septic tanks, I would.
That was the exact same example you used last time. I love that.
Yeah, I don't care, right?
Yeah.
And where I see it in real estate is people always want, they want a reality show. I'm like, dude, do you realize you only make like $10,000 per episode and your overhead and the waste of time it is can never justify. It's like not worth it. But they're so seduced with this idea of that everyone will know they do a reality show, or people want to be developers and people want to do custom rehabs and nobody wants to do trailer parks and nobody wants to buy apartment complexes. And that's where you make your money, right? And it's really interesting how, and God forbid you have an advanced degree, because then your ego is completely married to this idea that you have to have a business card that is worthy of this degree that you spent time on. But, I got a client who's a physician and he's all in on real estate now. He still goes to his job, but every other waking minute is focused on his real estate projects.
Yeah. So I think talk to us about, Aaron, because you still coach, right? I see you as a coach forever. Yeah. So what are some of the mindset shifts when someone like me comes to you, an immigrant, high-performing immigrant, right, with all the good pedigrees of schooling, of employers and everyone else, are like, teach me wealth, right? Teach me money. Teach me a different way of being successful, which is life-altering looking back. Yeah. But I'm sure the first 3 days, I was very resistive for you.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I would be the first person to admit that there is a glass ceiling for minority immigrants in the United States. Mm-hmm. Like, it's real. The whole white privilege, very few of my contemporaries want to admit that exists. I will raise my hand and say 100% it exists in this country. And, I've been to India.
Right.
My partner is from India in Charlotte. And so, and I've traveled all around the world. And it's really interesting because I do think that the United States is the easiest place to make $1 million, right? It's the easiest to make money here. God forbid you try to become a millionaire in Switzerland or Germany, right? Yeah, upward mobility is like non-existent. If you're not born with it, forget it. Especially with immigrants, there's absolutely, when you get up into private equity, when you get into lending, when you get into banking, there's a good old boys club of white dudes that still run a lot of the country. And so that would be probably the first is, because no one admits that that's the case, but it absolutely is the case. Mm-hmm. And so, how does one overcome that? I think that in this country, the way to do it is to be willing to do work that the establishment sees beneath them. So in my case, I've always been willing to do property management because you got the millionaires and the billionaires in Wall Street who want to raise the money to buy houses and buy property and apartments. They want to write the spreadsheets and they want to sign the paperwork, but they don't want to screen tenants, manage contractors, and take maintenance calls.
Correct.
And we manage now over 3,000 properties. We manage almost $500 million worth of real estate for other investors. And if you ask someone, hey, what do you think about property management? Oh, I don't want to do property management. Right. So the willingness to because then you're stepping through the back door. Think about construction right now. I mean, if I could pick a path for my kid, I'd rather that he major in construction management than music in college, because that's seen as beneath people. Nobody wants their kid no upper middle class worker wants their kid to go to college to be a property manager, right? But you put yourself on the radar of these billionaires and these multimillionaires who need you. They see you as a necessary evil. And so I think that's one of the back doors of opportunity here in the US is the willingness to build a business, because you can't do it working for someone else and you'll just hit a glass ceiling in corporate America.
You're essentially trading dead time, right? Even if you make it there, you're basically working 12, 18, 20 hours. We all know folks who are making millions of dollars, but they got no time.
Yeah. And so the opportunity for immigrants, minorities, and the Americans that come from very poor working class backgrounds, the opportunity is you have to learn to own a business. You have to learn to set up an LLC. You have to learn how to do the books. You have to learn how to get the licensing and work with the city and work with zoning and planning and licensing bureaus and attorneys. But it's actually very easy in blue collar businesses like property management that I've been doing for so long to make millions of dollars. It's not hard. You just have to have that mindset switch that you won't ever be a Fortune 500 CEO, or it's very difficult to achieve that.
I love that, Aaron. So Aaron, you and I met, our interaction really started when I wanted to scale my property ownership, right? And I learned a little bit about turnkey property management, turnkey properties and all that stuff. Could you talk a little bit about how that is also a way, while you're working full-time, while you're figuring out your life of what you want to be when you grow up, how that could be a path to at least establishing yourself and learning? Because I see property ownership also as running a business. It's not Absolutely. a one time done, right? It's like running a business. You got to run an LLC, you got to learn the books and all that stuff. Can you talk a little bit about how you are coaching your investors?
Yeah, so between 2000 and 2008, when I first got started, for those 8 years, I was really following kind of a traditional fix and flip path of investing. I would buy single family homes and sell them on MLS to homeowners. I would buy apartment buildings and sell them on LoopNet to apartment. I was just flipping, right? And after the crash, two things really changed the whole trajectory of my real estate investing. The first one was in the 2008 crash, Americans lost half of their retirement accounts, their 401ks and IRAs, because they were overinvested as a percentage in the market. And so they were frantic not to lose that money. And so this whole idea of a self-directed IRA where, let's say you had 200,000 in 2007, you're down to 100,000 in 2008, and you've just lost half your retirement money. And you meet me and I explain to you how you can take that 100,000 and put a house inside your 401k and have your 401k go on title for that $100,000. And now you're just making 10% off the rents. That's your growth plus the appreciation. And so we switched who our client was, basically the MLS before the multiple listing service. And we changed our client to educating people on how they could use their IRA and their 401k to own property. Because a lot of people didn't understand that, Fidelity won't let you do that. They manage a third of the retirement money in America. There's about $30 trillion of retirement money in Americans' accounts, and 10 trillion of that is managed by Fidelity. And as the trustee, they will only allow you to invest in stock-related, securities-related products.
Correct.
Now, there's only two things you can't use your retirement account to invest in. It's collectibles and premiums for like whole and universal life insurance. But anything else is good. The trustee has to be willing to manage it. And so if you go to your Fidelity person and you say, hey, I want to own a house in my 401k, they'll say you can't do that. And what they mean is you can't do that at Fidelity.
At Fidelity, right.
So that educational process became a huge focus for us because we said, man, there's all these people that have been burned in the market. What better time to pitch them owning a property that I've already purchased, I've fixed it up, I've rented it, and then I'll sell it to them, and then I'll manage it for them long term. Yeah. So we sold people homes in 2009, like in Texas, for $30,000 that are now worth 10 times that amount. Those investors will love me the rest of their life because we completely changed the trajectory of their retirement. And now when they retire, they just take the rent out as distributions. They're not touching the principal.
Aaron, sorry to interrupt you, but I think there's a very important concept here, which I know I knew it intellectually, but after coming to your event, it kind of helped me crystallize that, right? Difference between cash flow and net worth, and how you talked about an example where you actually created pensions for people, right? That they were not government employee or Boeing or wherever, these corporates that were giving pensions. Talk about that example. That was very powerful to somebody to think that you can actually create your own pension.
Yeah, I had a GM employee come to me in 2010, and GM had told him that they were going to eliminate his pension. So he either had to take an annuity. He was expecting $5,000 a month for life. He was like 47, and he was going to get $5K a month for life for his pension. And now they were telling him with the annuity, it would only pay like $2,200 a month. So that wasn't viable.
Right.
Or they said they would buy him out for $500,000. So he found me because he said, I need to learn how to invest, and I want to invest in real estate because I can understand it. He lived, up near Detroit. So we sold him 10 houses at $60,000 a piece that were all bringing in 10%, so $500 a month. So it was bringing in three, and then I saved the other 200 and said, you need to learn to invest this yourself. So let's do 300 passive, and then we modeled it out and we showed him that at 10% growth, that those houses over a period of 15 years could turn into a portfolio of over 30 properties, bringing in $15,000 a month. And fast forward now, it's been, let's say I met him in 2009. It's been 13 years. He actually has net rents on his properties coming in over $20,000 a month now. And he's got
amazing.
Yeah, and he's got a portfolio that he's built up of over $8 million.
So not only his cash flow has increased, but his net worth has tremendously increased, right? I think that was a paradigm shift for me, because I'm like, I got to have $5 million in my bank account, or 10 or 15, whatever the number used to be. Everyone has a different number, towards this thinking that if I can get that much amount of cash flow, I'm actually done. Who cares? I have 100,000 in the bank or 100 million in the bank. As long as I can generate a cash flow that I need to live off and have a quality of life.
Yeah. And, like my wife and I, we don't have any car payments. We don't have any mortgages on our houses or anything. And so we spend about $20,000 a month with the 6 kids that live under my roof. And
that's a different story.
Yeah. But just from our rentals, we're bringing in anywhere from $120,000 to $150,000 a month. And I own all those rentals free and clear.
Right.
And then from deals that I'm buying and selling, I make another $200,000-$300,000 a month. And so, but my focus is always, what's my worst case scenario? So if I stop doing those other deals and I only live off of my rental properties, I have 6 times what I'm currently living off of.
Correct.
Coming in. And so when you start to think about what's your monthly number, what's your nut, and then what you have that will pay you, whether it's business ownership, whether it's dividend paying stocks is another thing that I love. It doesn't matter what the vehicle is, whether it's an annuity. Maybe you just convert to an annuity and you count that number. I watched my father-in-law, who's super secure, financially insecure, risk adverse. He just bought annuities, and that's good for him because he's very frugal, and that gives him a guaranteed check every month. So matching your lifestyle preference and your tolerance for risk to a strategy that pays you, as opposed to just accumulating this money and then living off it for retirement. That's the rookie way. That's the 5-figure income mindset, and why people work in middle class and they end up retiring poor.
I see more of that happening, right? Because you're at the mercy of the market. You don't control anything. You don't get anything. You're like, I'm just going to put my money in index funds or some active. I'm a day trader. No one's a day trader. You can get lucky. That's all you can get. But I personally believe that you cannot beat the market. And what you can't control, you can't really affect at all, right? So, but in real estate, in your example, you can add value. You can bring the rents up. With the inflation going on right now, the market rents are only going to increase, right?
Yeah, everyone talks about how the guy who pioneered the Yale model of diversification, and he took over their endowment, and he put 30% in the stock market, 30% in real estate, 30% in private equity, 10% in cash. And that diversification is actually, when you look at the top 1/10 of 1% of Americans, people making $4 million a year active income or more, that almost to the number, they match that. So they keep 30% in real estate, 30% in the market, 30% in private equity, or a business. If you're listening to this, you're like, what's private equity? I don't know how I would invest in that. So imagine taking 30% of your net worth and starting a business, whether it's a real estate business, whether you buy an ice cream shop, whatever that may be, starting a business for 30% of your net worth and then 10% in cash. And I find that most people haven't even thought about they have no idea when I say to them, how is your net worth currently allocated? The other thing I find is that far too many people have way more than 10% cash.
It's because cash makes you feel rich, right? Till you realize that the value of the cash, you're losing every single hour it stays in the bank in cash. Right?
Ray Dalio, one of my heroes of investing, describes cash as an investment. It's a very poor investment, but nevertheless, You and I've seen this. International investors understand this. I have Singaporean clients that are super savvy. And when the Sing dollar is falling to the US dollar, they want to buy US property to preserve their wealth.
Correct.
And I have Indian clients that do that as well. Is the rupee pegged to the dollar? I can't remember.
No, not really. I don't believe it is.
I don't think it is. I know the Hong Kong dollar is.
Yeah.
But I don't think my Japanese clients with the yen. And so that was the other thing that really transformed my business post 2008 was we started working with investors from all over the world. And that's a learning curve. Your staff has to learn, what their priorities are, how they think of the US, how the dollar. And so what was interesting is my business, I didn't make $1 million a year until the last crash. How interesting is that?
See, that's interesting, right? People lost their shit in that crash, but you actually made more money.
I had never made $1 million twice in a row prior to 2009. And since then, I haven't ever made less than $1 million in a year. But also, it became thinking outside of the box. I had to educate myself to meet the demand for investors who wanted to use their retirement money to buy property from me. And then I had to educate myself to meet the demand of Singaporeans, Indians, Chinese investors, Japanese investors that wanted to be in the US market. And so that's another thing that I find is education and personal development is a constant. It's a daily thing that you need to be plugging into.
No, I love that. And that's a theme of our show, right? Kind of like the whole migration. And it's an intentional migration because I always talk about life's going to make you change. Now, if you can design a life, if you can design the change by yourself, you may enjoy the journey. The outcome may still not be what you want, but at least the journey would be enjoyable because it's a game that you designed that you're playing. Versus the life kicks you around or the market kicks you around and you then start reacting versus responding.
Yeah, people think that the rate of change is going to start to reduce as they get older, and it never does. You will always have dynamic change in your life.
Right.
The sooner that you learn to embrace it and incorporate it into your business and your daily activities is the sooner that, I don't care what the market does. If it crashes, it doesn't crash. I've already figured that out over 22 years. And so, even with COVID, I've been kicking myself because the government was giving out so much free money. I only wanted to borrow that PPP money that was forgiven. And it was so stupid of me because I could have borrowed $25 million at 3% and bought a bunch more trailer parks. And I was just so scared. It was fear. Fear has become this recurring theme. And fear held me from, I could have moved my net worth forward another $15 or $20 million. My brother did, because he borrowed every penny that he could from the EIDL money. And so, it doesn't matter if you're a high school teacher in 2003 contemplating leaving your job to do real estate full time, or, a business owner in 2020 worried about borrowing too much of these government handouts.
Correct.
Fear still has a negative impact on your business. And understanding that and embracing that and just recognizing that is how you become better going forward at not succumbing to that.
So Aaron, someone who's so successful in not just, when I say successful, not just in monetary terms, I think your relationships, your friends, your family, all around, right? How do you combat fear? How do you embrace fear? If not combating is the right word. How do you deal with that?
Alcohol. No. Well, it's actually funny. Every day at about 7:30, 8 o'clock, I put my phone away. I'm either with my kids or coaching. If I have nothing going on, I'll binge watch some show on Netflix because I have to learn to I have to have this process where I can separate myself from running this massive real estate operation and put myself in a mindset where I can get a good night's sleep and let things go. And I have, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I have a meticulous routine that I follow to make sure that I, can go to sleep in about 15 seconds, which I do, and sleep about 6 to 7 hours a night, right? Because when I don't follow that routine, that's when I am thinking about work at midnight, waking up at 4 a.m., stressing about it. I still hate Sunday nights, not because I have a job that I have to go to, but because I know all my W-2 employees are going to be leaning into me on Monday morning.
Yeah, babysitting starts Monday morning.
Yeah. And so just recognizing the fact that fear never changes and that I just have to learn to manage it is really important. I mean, I go to the gym first every day because I find that when I run 6 or 7 miles and lift weights, so I do about an hour and 45 minutes, those endorphins make me perform optimal once I do get going on work for the rest of the day. right? And so just things like that. Like, I eat keto. I eat a lot of vegetables, very little.
I didn't realize you went on keto, Adam. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
man. So I've been keto.
Trying to get on keto. I could never do that.
I have these pre-made meals sent to me. They're called Factor. And
I may look into that.
Yeah, they send them fresh once a week. You get a shipment. And then,
that's not bad. Is it called FACTOR?
Yep, Factor meals. Yep.
All right, perfect.
And they taste good. They're fresh. But it's made it so I don't have to make food decisions because I don't make good food decisions. So it's kind of like the alcoholic that won't walk into a bar.
I love that.
Yeah, I was up to 275 last October, and I've been down at 245. Right.
Hey, that's amazing, man. That is amazing.
And so if you're not always getting better, you're getting worse, right? And
correct.
And I love the Tony Robbins quote where he says that we all of us overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what you can do in 5 years.
Correct.
And that to me is like, I have to own today. And so, and actually really all you have to do is win the morning, right? If you win the morning, then you'll crush the afternoon, but nobody loses the morning and then crushes the afternoon. It never works that way.
No.
And so when you break it down into just what's my routine for excellence, all 8-figure income earners I know have a routine of excellence that they follow meticulously every day.
Man, Adam, this is awesome. This has been great. Hey, Adam, where can people find you? I know you've been on multiple platforms. Where is that one platform if they go to and if they want to learn? Because you are a wealth of information and you love teaching. And you, of course, have ways for folks to multiply their money. So where can they go to?
So we set up Infinity Investing about a year and a half ago. I've had over 85,000 people join.
That's awesome.
Because we have the best free membership that you're going to find anywhere. It's got over 200 hours of trainings on there. We have weekly live Zooms where you can get your questions about stock investing, about real estate investing answered. One Saturday a month, we do an all-day workshop where we answer questions. We've been averaging like 800 people on that workshop every once a month. And so infinityinvesting.com is the URL. Just sign up for our free basic membership. There's no bait and switch. If you would like specific knowledge about, like if you want to learn to day trade, we'll charge you a few $1,000 for that. You want to learn how to flip mobile homes. But as far as basic financial education and content and asset protection, that's all there for you for free. And we've been, I'm really at this pay it forward phase. I'm 49, but with my oldest son, we were talking before this show about my oldest leaving for college. I was at this life crossroads. So I keep grinding and try to get to, $100 million net worth. Or do I really focus on what I love, which is coaching and teaching? Obviously, I elected to coach and teach and pay it forward. And so, how ironic that 22 years after, 19 years after leaving my job in the high school, that's still how I spend my time. I'm still at 3:30 every day. I'm back at the high school coaching volleyball.
Love that.
But this time around, I have a 501c3, a nonprofit that I put $2 million in for youth sports.
I love that.
Yeah. And so it's crazy how, money creates the black and white lines of your life, but giving and charity and paying it forward is the color that brings it to life and that adds vibrancy. And so
that fulfills you, right?
It fills
money buys you things. Money buys comfort. Giving actually gives you fulfillment.
Pure joy. I mean, last week we had our first volleyball match for these little high school girls, and they haven't made state in 5 years. And we upset one of the top teams in the state last Thursday night.
That's amazing.
They rushed the court. They cried, right? And I said to them, remember, none of you wanted, when I told you that in June that we were going to do open gym 6 days a week, you all thought I was crazy because the other high schools were doing it 1 day a week. And now look at this path of excellence you're on. It hasn't been easy, but they caught a vision of what winning is. And winning always happens. There's no esoteric, it's a decision. It's a conscious decision. And winning and excellence is never owned. It's rented, and the rent's due every day.
Right.
And when people plug into that and they get dialed into that, then they build a routine, a life routine that allows them to develop on the things that are going to help move them forward financially, emotionally, physically. And it's all connected. It's there. You can't just take stock investing or real estate investing or asset protection or retirement planning and look at them in silos. They're all connected. No,
you're right. I know you're a big proponent of that, not just you're saying it on the show, but you actually live your life that way. Everything that you do is very well integrated and very well balanced. Aaron, I know I can talk to you forever, man. You know that. So, but I do miss you. I do need to come out to Indy. Are you still going to Indy or not yet? The events are still happening in Indy?
Yep, and now even more than ever because my son's out there, so he's
oh yeah, now you have more reason to go see him.
yeah. So I go a day early and stay a day late now.
Oh, that's perfect. So Aaron, one last question for you, my friend. We talked about your personal goals, right? Your personal life, your personal mission. Let's take it from a different angle, different perspective. What is one wish that you have if you were to grant one for the world, for the humanity to migrate towards? What do you think that one migration that you wish all of us could make it happen?
So, I think the thing, as a 19-year-old, I went down to Venezuela and I lived in Venezuela for 2 years and learned Spanish. And, I've been very passionate about travel. I've traveled all over the world. And I think until you really understand how other people view the United States, how other cultures value, what they value about this experience here, and vice versa. So, for example, I think Hispanics do family so much better than we do. I think Indians do family so much better than we do here in the U.S. Individually, until you know what you suck at, you can't build a complementary life that allows you to compensate for the things that you're deficient at. And I think that at a world level, our biggest failure is that we don't travel enough. We don't understand other cultures. We don't understand what's great about other countries and cultures and societies and how we're deficient. And until we understand that, we'll continue to fail at making this country great, because I don't think that we are. We have a lot of great people that live here, but as a nation, I don't think we're great, and we're not anywhere near where we should be from the potential standpoint. Because I know that as my worldview broadens, and I'm going to go to the World Cup in Doha in November. I'm so excited.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've never been to the Middle East, and I know I'm going to have interactions and opportunities to change my worldview, and that excites me because I feel like that makes me better as an individual, but then it makes my business better. So everything is impacted by things like that. So that would be my hope, is that we understand ourselves better by learning about others.
I love that. I think it's always easier to gain perspective when you see something else happening to somebody else or how they're living it, but it's got to be intentional, right? Traveling, a lot of folks can travel. I think what you're talking about, having intentional travel, right? Actually experience it, live it, try to see the world from locals' point of view. I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, thank you again for your time. I know you've added a lot of value to me always. I'm going to schedule some time to come meet you in Indy. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Hold on one second, Adam.
If you got value from this episode, you might consider sharing this content with a friend. But most importantly, be sure to take action on what you've learned. One way you can take the next step is to connect directly with Socket on an investor call. That link is waiting for you in the show notes below.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. Please consult your own advisors when making any investment decisions. Keep listening. We'll see you on the next episode.